True calm. An internal construction. Many believe that peace only comes when the world around you becomes completely silent. However, the reality is different. You can be in a vacation paradise with your bills paid and no charges and still feel an inner turmoil. This is because authentic calm does not reside in the circumstances, but in the inner foundation that you build to face them. This foundation does not fall apart all at once. It breaks down little by little, silently. An annoyance that returns, a poorly assimilated phrase, a tension that grows without warning. Then you realize it is not the world that destabilizes you, but your own mind that has stopped protecting itself. But there is a way back. There are attitudes that strengthen your serenity. They are not magic recipes, but deep and accessible Stoic practices that transform the way you react, interpret, and live. Below, I present 10 of these habits that can restore your inner peace. The first of these begins with a decision to react firmly, like someone who has understood that true peace cannot be begged for, but rather built. Before we continue, I ask 2 things. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. Only then can this content reach more people. Now, let's get started. Habit 1. Before reacting, breathe. Imagine the scene. You're in traffic. Your watch is ticking. Your cell phone is vibrating incessantly, and everything around you seems designed to drive you crazy. Your mind is already racing, trying to resolve something that hasn't even begun. Then, like a test from the universe, a car abruptly cuts you off and even honks its horn, as if it were your fault. At that moment, everything inside you cries out for a response. Anger rises like fire, and the impulse is clear, to retaliate in kind and show that you woe and accept being disrespected. That S where the difference lies between those who live at the mercy of the world and those who have learned to protect themselves from within. As Epictetus said, it is not the things that disturb us, but the judgment we make of them. The scene is neutral. What changes is the lens through which you view it. You can interpret this as a personal attack and react as if it were a moving battlefield. Or you can do what few dare, stop and breathe before reacting. This is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of silent resistance. It is as if, by taking a deep breath, you erect an invisible shield between yourself and the chaos, as if to say, in here, I am in charge. That pause is a decision, and decisions shape destinies. Breathing changes your heart rate, your tone of voice, the direction of the conversation. Habit 2. Observe, but don't absorb. Have you ever found yourself dwelling on a sentence someone said hours ago? Maybe it wasn't a direct attack, or even intentional, but something about the tone, or what wasn't said, stuck with you. Even though the conversation was over, that word was still there, like an annoying echo, bouncing around in your head. You tried to go about your day as normal, but your mind kept going back to that moment, wondering what you should have said, how you could have defended yourself, or simply trying to understand why it hurt so much. And without realizing it, you allowed an external comment to become an internal noise. This is what happens when we stop observing and start absorbing. When we don't treat a provocation as what it really is, something external, and let it settle inside us, as if it had a right to stay. But it doesn't, and never did. Epictetus warned us, if someone tries to hurt you, it is your own judgment that creates the wound. It's not what they say that hurts, it's what you believe about what they said. The offense doesn't come in on its own. You're the one who lets it go. Your mind should be like a well-kept house, clean, protected, and silent inside. You wouldn't let a stranger in with dirty shoes, nor would you allow someone to shout in the middle of your living room. So why allow words loaded with contempt, sarcasm, or judgment to freely roam your thoughts? Emotional maturity lies in the ability to listen without getting contaminated, to see an aggressive attitude and understand that it says much more about the other person as confusion than about you, to keep your center intact, even when everything seems to want to destabilize you. Habit 3. Avoid useless battles. Some arguments don't arise from differences of opinion. They start because the ego feels threatened. Sometimes, all it takes is a poorly spoken word, a dirty look, or even a silence, misinterpreted as an offense. In a matter of seconds, what was just a misunderstanding turns into a conflict, and before you know it, you're already in the middle of a war that you don't even know how it started. This is how we waste energy on things that aren't worth it, on fights that don't teach us anything, that don't transform us into anything, and that, in the end, only leave us feeling tired and frustrated, because, in the heat of the moment, no one listens, No one wants to understand, they just want to win. But win what? As Marcus Aurelius said, avoid futile disputes, for they divert the soul from the path. And he knew what he was talking about, because when you get into a pointless argument, even if you have the last word, you lose something invisible. You lose time, you lose peace, and you lose focus. And sometimes you even lose respect for yourself. It's easy to get carried away, to respond to provocation, to play along and want to be right, but this only shows that you are still being ruled by your impulses. The hard part is taking a step back, looking at the situation, taking a breath, and asking yourself, if I win this argument, what do I really gain? Most of the time, the answer is nothing. There is no trophy at the end of the conflict, only wear and tear. Habit 4. Change your thoughts, not the problem. Sometimes, what destroys you is not what happened, but what you thought it meant. You experienced criticism, a cold comment, an attitude that took you by surprise, and in the next instant, your mind built a story, not just about what happened, but about your worth, your ability, your place in the world. That criticism became a sentence, that phrase became a portrait, and that moment became a distorted reflection of who you believe you are. This is how human beings function when they live on autopilot. They do unrespond to the facts. They respond to the stories they build about those facts. Seneca already warned about this. He said, "Suffering arises more from the opinions we form than from the situations we actually experience." And this is one of the great traps of the mind. It invents, exaggerates, and dramatizes, and without realizing it, you end up carrying a weight that does not come from the world, but from your interpretation. The Stoics trained in the exact opposite. They didn't seek comfort in motivational phrases, but rather clarity in difficult questions. When something hit them, they didn't ask themselves, why did this happen to me? But rather, how can I grow from this? Does this really say something about me? Or does it say more about the other person? What am I assuming as truth without thinking? This shift in the questions is what allows you to rewrite your thinking. You don't erase what happened, but you change the place inside you where it will live. And this shift is liberating. You stop sabotaging yourself with automatic thoughts and start acting with discernment. Instead of reinforcing the hurt, you turn the impact into fuel. Instead of paralyzing yourself with criticism, you start to see it as an opportunity to become even stronger inside. Habit 5. Don't expect others to act like you. One of the most silent causes of human frustration is expecting others to have the same heart as you, to think like you, to act like you, to reciprocate in the same measure what you give. You dedicate yourself with integrity, offer support, act with loyalty, and deep down, you expect, even if you don't admit it, that this dedication will be returned in the same way. But many times, it doesn't. You respect and receive disrespect. You are kind and receive coldness. You are transparent and receive silence. And then the bitter cycle begins. The mind tries to understand, justify, find meaning, but the only thing that grows is the feeling of injustice. Am I the problem? You ask yourself. But it's not you. It's the expectation you created that the other would act like you. Marcus Aurelius said, "Expect men to act according to their nature, not according to their will." And that changes everything, because as long as you continue to expect others to treat you with the same awareness that you carry, you will continue to hurt yourself. People do not act based on what you deserve, but based on what they know, what they have learned, what they carry. And this includes traumas, limitations, fears, and wounds that you cannot see. Accepting this reality does not mean surrendering to people. It means freeing yourself from the need to be understood by those who do not yet know how to understand. It means understanding that each person gives what they can based on their level of lucidity, and that demanding maturity from those who still live on autopilot is like expecting a seed to behave like a tree. It will not happen, and you will be disappointed every time you wait. Habit 6. Master your body to master your mind. Most people try to calm their minds with arguments, but they forget that the mind listens to the body first. When anger arises, it doesn't come with a warning. It creeps in like a heat rising up your back, a pressure in your stomach, a tension in your jaw. The body sounds the alarm before the thought forms. And if you're not paying attention, you'll already be reacting before you know it. Epictetus taught that the first step to self-control is to master what others can see. Your body, your expression, your tone of voice, and only then master what no one sees. Your thoughts. And this makes perfect sense. because the body is the immediate messenger of emotion. When you physically close yourself off, quicken your breathing, stiffen your shoulders, you're sending a clear message to your brain. We're in danger, even when we're not. And this simple message distorts everything: your perception, your way of speaking, your decisions. That's why every Stoic learned to start with the body. So, before you speak, breathe. Before you react, relax your shoulders. Before you make a decision, observe what state you are in, because often it is not the situation that is pressuring you. It is your body that is already in defense mode, even if there is no threat. Mastering your body does not mean pretending to be calm. It means building, little by little, the physiology of serenity. It is when everything pushes you to scream, but you lower your tone. When everything inside you wants to advance, but you take a step back. That is when you turn the tables. And it is not just about self-control. It is about emotional leadership. If you do not lead your own body, you will be led by instincts. And in that state, you will always react like a hostage, not as a choice. Habit 7. Move away from what unbalances you. There are places where the soul learns to shrink. You enter smiling, but little by little you become silent. Not because you lack courage, but because there is too much tension. Sometimes, it's not even something explicit. No one attacks you, no one expels you, but something inside you feels, I can't breathe here. And yet, you insist, because you believe it's just a phase. Because you were taught to endure and you think that with time everything will work out. But what really works out is your limit. You start to see it as normal to live in a state of alert, to walk carefully, as if everything were fragile. It seems normal to feel exhausted and pretend that everything is fine. But Epictetus said, if something weakens your soul, walk away from it. Don't negotiate with what destabilizes you. Don't get used to emotional discomfort as if it were part of the price. Imagine your mind as a glass of clear water. Every toxic environment, every manipulative presence, every relationship that demands too much of you drops a drop of dark ink. At first, the water still seems clear, but day after day, you become cloudy without realizing it, until one day you look at yourself and no longer recognize yourself. That's why distancing yourself is necessary, not as punishment, but as It's not about running away from problems, but about stopping being intoxicated by what won't change. You can continue to be a good person without continuing to be available for everything. You can continue to be whole even without distancing yourself from what wears you down. Habit 8. Practice Stoic empathy every day. There is a kind of wisdom that doesn't shout. It just observes and acts differently. It's what the Stoics called seeing beyond the surface. Imagine that every person you cross paths with is carrying a backpack. You can't see what's inside, but they feel the weight. Some come loaded with anger, others with fear, and others who don't even realize what they're carrying. And you, without knowing any of it, end up bearing the brunt of this excess. It might be an employee who treats you coldly, a colleague who responds harshly, a family member who talks as if everything is your fault. Instinct tells you to react, but wisdom tells you to look again. Is this person really talking to me, or is he or she talking to the world that has hurt him or her before? Stoic empathy isn't about putting yourself in someone else's shoes. It's about realizing that they might not even know where they are. It's about understanding that it's not personal. It is something historical. And more than that, you can decide not to amplify this cycle. Marcus Aurelius did this even with his political enemies. Before judging someone, he would ask himself, if I had lived the same life as him, thought the same things, suffered the same pain, would I act differently? This reflection, repeated honestly, does not transform the other person, but it does transform the way you see them, and that changes everything. Because when you stop expecting coherence from someone who lives in internal conflict, you also stop being disappointed. When you understand that it is not about you, you free yourself from the attack. And when you reject the role of victim, you become the protagonist of your reaction. Habit 9. Reduce the excess. Live the essential. There are days when you reach the end of the day exhausted, but without knowing why. You look back and cannot identify anything truly important that you did. Only quick responses, interruptions, urgent tasks that seemed urgent, but that now do not even make sense. It's as if your energy has been hijacked by the little things, and deep down, it has been. Seneca said, happiness lies in focusing on what matters, but the world pushes you in the opposite direction, filling you with distractions, provocations, false urgencies, and if you don't choose what will occupy your attention, someone else will choose it for you. You'll react to a rude message, respond to a criticism that wasn't even worth it, get annoyed by someone who cuts in line, get into arguments that don't change anything, and, in the end, you are mentally exhausted by things that shouldn't last more than 5 seconds. It is what the Stoics called death by 1,000 invisible cuts. You don't fall from a single strong blow, but from small daily wastes of focus. The solution is to live with criteria and choose what is worth investing your time in, like someone choosing what to plant in fertile soil. Because every thought you feed, every emotion you cultivate, is a seed, and everything you water grows. Habit 10. Practice emotional detachment. There is a subtle illusion that holds us back. The belief that, with enough effort, we can make everything work out, that we can save relationships, clear up misunderstandings, change behaviors, convince someone who doesn't see it yet, avoid losses. But behind this search, there is an uncomfortable truth. The more we try to control what doesn't belong to us, the further we move away from our own serenity. Emotional detachment is not coldness. It is intelligence. It is when you understand that there are bonds that can only be maintained with unilateral effort, expectations that will never be met, dialogues that repeat themselves like vicious cycles. You try, insist, retreat, try again, and deep down you feel like you are emptying yourself, not because of the absence of the other person, but because you remain in something that has lost its meaning. The Stoics did not recommend apathy, they recommended realism. Seneca said that much of human suffering arises from resisting the facts. When you accept what you are, when you stop idealizing the potential of those who have already shown their limits, something inside you reorganizes itself. You stop fighting the current and start swimming toward your own integrity. It is not a scandalous rupture. It is a silent decision to no longer expect anything from those who cannot give, to not demand the presence of those who have already left behind, to not insist on ties that are only maintained out of habit. True detachment is not indifference. It is respect for yourself, for the time that passes, for the peace that you have a duty to protect. Today, perhaps you need to do just that. Not break up, not fight, not explain yourself. Just let go. Let go of control. Let go of expectations. Let go of the cycle. Say mentally, this does not define me. This is not mine. This will no longer dictate the pace of my life. Because, after all, your peace begins exactly at the point where you stop trying to control what does not depend on you. If you have come this far, comment, I choose calm. And don't forget, subscribe, like, and share with anyone who needs it. Thanks for watching.